Hi, and welcome to the Face Building Podcast, episode 72, with your lovely and amazing host, Vladi Kuna. Hello, lovely people out there. Today's topic is amazingly close to all of our hearts because it's called What's Your Why? And many people think, why? Yeah, I need to pay the rent, or I need to do this, I need to do that. Yeah, the why is a little bit more than just a regular goal or vision. It's basically your drive, why you get out of bed in the morning. And actually, if we close the loop at the end of our podcast, we want to share with you why it's so important to have a why and then actually follow steps towards your why. And to kick it off, I want to mention something that I heard, I think from Simon Sinek the other day, where he said, do you guys know the celery test? And people were like, a celery test? No. And he said, imagine you go to a party and you ask someone, so what do you favor? What kind of food or chocolate or thing? And they say, oh, you need to buy Snickers. Snickers is very good. So he go to the next person and he says, Milky Way. Milky Way is amazing. The third one says, oh, I like celery. The fourth one says, I love soy milk. And the fifth one says, I love coffee. So with all those 5 items in your mind, you go shopping the next day. And as you like all those 5 people, you go shopping for Snickers, for Milky Way, for soy milk, for celery, and for coffee. It takes a long time, it costs a lot of money, and maybe some parts of those items you might use, but some others not, because you just bought it because somebody recommended it. And Simon shared, if you go to the cash register and you put it on the little belt that runs your stuff forward to the cashier, somebody would watch you put the soy milk on, the celery, the coffee, the Snickers, and the Milky Way. They would not really know what you stand for because it's a variety of unhealthy stuff and healthy stuff, and people would not see your why. They would just see, yeah, you buy a lot of stuff, so you carry stuff home. Imagine you would know your why, and your why could be something, I wanna grow as old and healthy as I possibly can. Next evening, you go to the same party, you meet the same people again, and they say, so what did you think? And they all go through the soy milk and the celery and so on. And you say, yeah, I bought it, I tried it, but I'm not sure, I'm still in the process. I'll tell you later. You go shopping again the other day. And this time, instead of all the things, you would buy only a couple of them. And as I already told you the why, the goal, which is turn very, very old and stay very, very healthy, you exactly know what out of coffee, Milky Way, Snickers, soy milk, and celery you would buy, right? We would buy soy milk and celery. Now somebody watches you again at the cash register and they would in the instant figure out what you stand for. They would say, oh, this person must live a healthy life. And if it's very, very, and usually that happens, that the person says, and maybe this person is like me because I'm buying the same stuff. I'm also healthy. And now you're all connected through the why. And the question we want to pop today, what's your why? Besides, of course, what you shop. But as we want to show to you, if your action do not follow your why, people don't really see your why. And people don't see your why because most people don't know their why. And therefore we ask the princess of why. One of my dearest friends that knows so much about the why that the podcast might go 3 hours, but we will keep it down to half as always. Vladi, what's your position on the why? Why is it so important? And how can you find the why?
You know, it's so funny because we've done so much in the last 8-9 years in the personal development. And really, it goes to goal setting. It's really, really important. But why do you want what you want? Because it comes to basic question. What do you really want? Not your husband, not your wife, not your kids, not your parents, not your boss. What do you really want? What is your true goal? And you don't have to explain others why, but you need to know why do you want that? Because without that why, anything that goes wrong, because once we make a decision to go for our dream and achieve certain things, then why is almost our tool, or let me say this, the vehicle to get you to a vision. It is your vehicle, because otherwise you just strolling with the barefoot all over the place. Because if you don't know why do you want it, it doesn't have the true meaning. It's not connected to your very strong inner power. And also, it will not help you to pass the terror barriers. Because as you all know, when we make a decision to do something, we're just going to have every possible challenge and people not or lovingly advising us, oh, maybe this is not the greatest time for you to do this now. And look at the economy and look at the war and look what's going on in the world. You should not actually go for it. When your why is strong, you will have none of this accepting. You know why you want it and you will keep moving towards it regardless of the challenges. Because we often given up. We either don't take the first step, so we don't even start. We talk about it for so long and never really start because we overthink it. Or we do, but the why is not strong enough to keep us going through the tough times. If somebody tells me, oh, I would love to be a millionaire. Well, why do you want to be a millionaire? If you don't actually have an answer to that, you will most likely not to manifest it, or you will manifest part of it and you will lose it, or something will go wrong. Because really the why is everything. I remember we were actually earlier talking about our friend and mentor Phil Goldfine in Hollywood as a producer, and I remember him standing on a stage when we were in Canada, and he was talking about how he got his first Oscar for a movie. And the whole story he gave us was pointing out the disciplines and what he did in order to get successful. And the whole room of people would have lined up what time he woke up, what he ate, what was the glass of water, and what was the disciplines he used. But he said this sentence that he was always holding a vision, holding this Oscar, because his kids were so proud of him, saying, "Daddy, you did it." That was his why. That was his why, which he wasn't announcing in the journey of getting to the Oscar, but that is the power that got him there. Because he saw his vision with this big why. I'm going to say it's beyond you. It's something that is so powerful and keeps you going, keeps you fueling. If we're talking about vehicle, and if you take your car to the destination, but you don't put your fuel in it, well, you will not get there. Or electrics, doesn't matter what you use. But literally, you have to fuel the vehicle to get where you would love to go. And this why is your fuel that keeps you going. You're going to run on empty, you fill it in, and you keep going until you achieve it. So you should always, always have your why, but nobody else's. Has to be yours.
And if you don't have your why, like Vladi pointed out, you might do the same things. You can get the same routine, the same values, the same to-dos, the same to-do lists and vision boards and whatever somebody out from your perspective successful did do to achieve that. If the why is different, it doesn't work. And the question that arises from time to time is the why driven towards a goal or away from a pain? And as we have 7 nerve highways for negative and 1 for positive, many people are driven away from a pain. And I want to give us an example. It's a very dark, mood orientated and a very strange and tough, but it brings home the picture that I want to give you. If I say, can you make 5 sales today? Could be your book, could be your business, could be whatever. And you say, 5, that's tough. What do I get? And I say, you get 100,000 pounds. If the person is drawn towards a goal and wants to have 100,000, this person will do everything to get the 5 sales. Some other people say 100,000 is nice, but I think I still cannot do that because they are fearful and the goal they have in the distance does not draw them. Usually those people are drawn or pushed away from the pain, which means you have to find something for yourself or for the other person that really would hurt them. And if somebody is family orientated, and now comes the dark part, I would say, can you make 5 sales today? And the person would give me a trillion excuses why this would not work and could not work and what could happen and what needs to happen. And I would say, okay, come with your family tomorrow at 8. Bring the kids, bring the wife, bring the husband, whoever. Then I put a gun against their head and I say, you have time until 5 this afternoon. And if you don't come back with 5 sales or more, I will pull the trigger. And if this person is very family oriented, he or she will do everything to achieve it. But if they are not, the system would not work. And the same is with money. To gain money or a golden watch or another car. And if you have a salesperson that says, I already have 5 cars. So if you give me a car, if I make 5 sales, it just does not draw me. Therefore, you really need to know what's your why. And are you driven towards that goal? I want to make the kids proud. Or are you driven away from a pain, which means if they would not see my name on the screen, they would think not really highly of me. And this would mean they don't love me. And this would basically hurt me. So there are 2 different methods. One is called towards the goal, you're driven towards the goal. And the other one is pushed away from the pain. And you need to find out for yourself first, am I a person that's drawn towards something? You put a carrot on a stick, you throw the carrot out, and you walk behind the carrot, and nobody has to force you or does anything to you. And if this does not work for you, you need to pull up the pressure or the temperature on the plate below your butt that you keep moving. And the higher the pressure in an area that you really hate losing or hate being pushed, that's the trigger to motivate you. And now if you think, but this away from a pain sounds very cruel. No, it's just a different way of motivating. Maybe take the gun out, but the idea itself is just a different way of motivation. Therefore, if you're drawn towards a goal and you have employees or family members that are away from a pain, you will motivate them with nothing. Like with none of your strategies. You offer them more cars, more money, more Rolex, more this, more that, but they just won't move until you just turn on the heat and make really fire below their butts.
I love what you're saying, because it just brought me back to how much people care. We were just having a discussion today with few people about how services are going up. You know, like you look in the world and prices and stuff, but the service, the level of service going down. And it's really the why, because people cared. We were saying that before when we came to, and I'm going to say we obviously because I'm being a little judgmental and putting in the people we were talking about in our generation, we had to do things differently. And you can see this, you know, like that there's things that are changing in the new generations, not to blame them. They're doing whatever they can, what we provide them in the environment. However, you can look at how the waitress, the people had, like, they were passionate about for you to be happy, to have the greatest time in a restaurant, to have a great meal. And now everyone is almost like not taking responsibility for their parts of, even if you're a waiter and you're not cooking it, you're there to make people happy, crack a joke, do something that make them feel good. That is why we come there. So we don't have to cook. We can enjoy the good meal and we can actually have fun and laugh in a restaurant. That's why I always associate these places with, but people are just like sometimes miserable. They just, you know, even polite, but not very happy. Like they polite on the outside, but you can see that they're very cold and disconnected. And part of it is because of AI and what's happening, you know, like it with how many people's work is actually replaced by just scripts. And people are just following scripts, not even thinking. But I'll tell you what is really going on with the why is also it really linked to your worthiness. Because I love what Norman was talking about, the urgency. When you have to do something, then that might become your why. And really, the number one thing how you will find out your entire why is the 7-level deeps. And that, I can guarantee you, I think it was Dean Graziosi or Tony Robbins that actually I've taken it with. I do 7-level deeps with the private clients because it's very personal. And you crack, and in fact, we've done it with Norman. And I think Norman introduced it to me through Dean Graziosi, didn't you?
I
I
think so,
just
yes.
now puzzling as I'm talking about it. I'm like having this do. So it was Norman who brought it up, and we were doing it in a group of 3. And you want to do it with someone who you're close with, because it's kind of painful to get to the 7th level, and most likely you cry because you realize what is that it brings you majority times all the way to childhood, to that point where you, that little hurt, heartbroken child, made a decision, secretly made a decision with yourself that no more I will ever do this. Or when I grow up, there's no way my kids would ever experience this. And when I am richer or more in control or wiser, whatever promise you made to yourself, that will never happen. And it goes to a very specifically to you. And that becomes your why behind your real why as well. So whenever you're in the situations or you're experiencing something in your life, or you see someone close or someone you love experiencing that 7th level of yours, it touches you. You connect. You want to help people. It becomes your why. It's not necessary that you're going to make more money on this mission. Sometimes you would see why there's so many who are helping, usually the coach studying, helping women, let's just go women, helping them through the broken marriages, narcissism, bad behavior, abuse and stuff, would be someone who experienced this, and they've had such a bad time that they're now helping others to do that. Because we experience things in our life that actually we don't like, and that's why we make internal promise to ourselves that never ever I want to be experiencing this again. And not only that, I'm going to help everyone else who's going through it. It's this connection. There's people who are experiencing an alcohol problems, and they know someone who were they're more connected because their why, and that's how Norman started explaining at the beginning, their why is the same energy. It's the same pain, really. It's the same promise we made each other, and it connects us. It connects us like, let's all get together and help these people, because we know what it was one day to be there. Or we might not have directly experienced that, but we're in the environment where it was happening a lot and we felt powerless. That's another one. You don't want to be powerless, so you make this decision that I'm going to be a millionaire. But then unless you sort different things as well, you might become a heartless one, and or ego-driven one, really focused on money and not care, because really the care is part of it. Why do I care? Do you care about your why? Do you spend 5 minutes thinking about what would I really love if I could have anything? Forget how much money and resources and anything you have in your life and education and a body weight or whatever it is. What if I could really have everything? What would I have? What is your true why? And don't compare yourself. Do not compare yourself to others, because just because my why climbing the mountains is, it gives me such an amazing feeling of the inner and physical and mental climb, and the joy and love with the friends. There's always a chance I can fall and die, but that is not why I do it. Your why must be something that gives you so much joy that you just want to do it for the joy. It just fulfills you. Driving a speedy cars, that's another thing I love, because of the speed. It just gives me this feeling of acceleration. It's just something I love. Not necessary, but if your why is, oh, I want that car, because then all my friends are going to think I'm better, it's a wrong why. So I just wanted to throw that comparison, how we sometimes compare ourselves. Somebody, my best friend, says to me, why would you want to climb? And I'm scared of heights. I can't even look at your pictures. She tells me every time you post something that you're hanging on the rocks, I'm sick literally just by looking at that picture. I can't even, I'm like scrolling like this just to have a look, because that is not her why. So what is your why, Norman?
And maybe you want to stay in your line of your why. My big why is to bring as many people from the old world onto the new world, which means I cannot carry them physically. Therefore, I can inspire them that they think different. They change their perspective. Now, in Germany, we have an interesting time when it comes to politics. Like, there's one party that wins more and more people. They are more towards the right wing, because all the other parties eventually, and I actually did not do a very good job. And I listened to some podcast where you realize how the way it is and the way it is presented, it's very one-sided. And of course, towards the people in power that are there since many years. And I thought this morning, should I stand up, have a political opinion and share that? And I realized no, for one reason and one reason only. I have no freaking clue besides the interviews I heard. All the things where they said, oh, this happened in our past and at this year and there was this contract and many, many things. I hear it, it sounds very smart, but I have no proof that this is true, what they are telling me. Therefore, I would need to dig into history. I would need to dig into politics. And already me thinking about that scares me away. Therefore, I realized and decided to achieve my why. I do it through inspiration, through personal development, through standing on stages, talking to people, giving lectures, all those things. That's basically my line of where I can shine and where I have total control. And you can ask me basically everything and I have an answer for you. If I would go into politics and swim a little bit on the side and say, you know, I have this opinion, people follow me, somebody with a little bit more knowledge, and this would be just not too much knowledge that they need, could play me against the wall. And therefore I realized if you have a why, you don't need to rescue the whole world. Because at one point I figured if I'm not interested in politics, the whole country could go down. And I just stand there and look at it and say, I saw it coming, but said nothing. Still, do I want to get involved in this different kind of sports game? If you're great in tennis, stay out of soccer. You will just hurt yourself and hurt the others. Even though you might say, but soccer rules the world, it's the number one sport, at least in Europe. Yeah, but if you're the tennis guy or girl, stick with tennis. We need people that play tennis as well. You come from a different angle. I don't want to rescue the world in a political way. I want to inspire the world in a very personal based way. And that's my superpower, and not political things and nothing else. And one more thing that I thought about when Vladi mentioned that the service is going down, I think we all realize that people are not as kind as anymore. They're just aiming for the money. And I just read something last night before going to bed about Sam Walton, the gentleman who founded Walmart, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. And the author wrote that Sam Walton had this big need of walking through Walmart for hours, and not only through Walmart, but also through the aisles and buildings of the competition. And he looked through the eyes of a customer and realized what is off with the competition. Therefore, he changed it at Walmart. And he also asked all the leaders to do the same. Because very often we take decisions from a different angle. We just think about our perspective, but we lose kind of touch why the customer comes to us. Because we think from a different angle. And Steve Jobs supposedly did the same with Apple. He said, I want to make the most beautiful products outside. If you have an Apple, you know it's beautiful done and beautifully designed. And he also said, I also make it on the inside very beautiful. And he was asked at one point why he does the outside and the inside very beautiful, because the inside maybe just 1% in the world sees because it's a computer technician if something fails. And he said, I want to have the inside as beautiful as the outside because I know how it looks in there and I care. Why should the computer technician find a big mess under the most beautiful thing? So it just matches. And therefore, always make sure that you stay in your line of interest, that you save the world or present whatever you have to present to other people and to yourself in the most beautiful way. Don't interfere with other people and their line of why and business, and always make sure that you care because you're looking through the eyes of your customer or the person you serve, and you think, if I would be him or her, what would I actually be aiming for? And what's the reason why I would invest some money in the business, in the program, in whatever they offer? And most important, look if this person seems to have what you want to have. And if you say, I'm not quite sure what I want to have, it's again the why. if I want to bring as many people from the old world to the new world, what's my why behind it? Because I just want to live a happy life. I want to be happy. And therefore, I look at my mentors and I ask myself one question. Does this person seem, through my eyes, happy? Is the owner of the restaurant a happy person? Is the cruise line director, is it he or she a happy person? If yes, I take a lot of time to sit down with them, to spend time with them, because whatever I could learn from this person makes me more of a happy person in this case. But if I look at the people and I say, no, they're greedy, they're frustrated, they're whatever, but their information seems to be good, I'm not quite sure if their information will turn me into a happy person, because if they follow their own recipe and this is the outcome, that's nothing I want to have. Vladi, back to you.
That is so true. And it really is more challenging now with the AI. People, if we look at the pressure, the social pressure for perfection, it's about growth. It's about you being happy. And it's about you creating progress rather than perfection. And the progress in actually being happier. I think that's the whole aim of life. When you think about it, we come to this, okay, we could talk about reincarnations and stuff, but we're not here to talk about that. We're just, you have this one life to live. And really, we often underestimate that, oh, if I have 10 degrees and 5 million and, like 50, I wanted to say 50 million or 50 billions, and a company that operates all over the world, and I want to be a New York Times bestselling author, whatever it is you're saying to yourself, just think about that. Is this going to make me happy? Am I doing it for social status because there's so many out there that I have these and I don't feel I fit in? It's the fear of loss. And sometimes we have to just be wired for negativity. We are. So we pick on it everywhere we look. So the number one thing you can do, and the only thing, if you focus on in every single person and everything around you on good. What's good in this? And what's good in this person? And you might go like, definitely nothing. This guy drives me bonkers. But there is something that you actually like. And if you remove that skill or that characteristic and placed it on someone who you love, you would just be like, oh my God, this is just an amazing thing. So play this game where we become so judgmental towards certain people or things, or like Norman said, politicians, or what's happening. And it happened to me. I mean, when the war came, I was like, oh my God, let me make a post. I had the same thing, but really, I'm like, Norman, I have nothing. We don't watch news. Who am I to? And they always like, did you know this? And the month and this, and they start giving you threads. I'm like, no idea, because I actually don't watch news, so I don't know. But the one thing we all want is to be loved. And it's as simple as that. We just want to be loved. And whether we realized it or not yet, it's just that. We want to go out and have fun and smile and feel good and go to the cinema, jump off the plane. We obviously become more adventurous. Some of us are more crazier, like I love crazy stuff, but I also love peaceful stuff. Like it's okay, whatever you make a decision to do, but do it because you have your why, because it makes you happy. That might be your why. Like, I do this because it gives me so much joy every single day that I just love it. I just want to do it. I want to wake up every morning and have a cup of coffee and sit outside for 15 minutes imagining an amazing day ahead of me. And I think that might be the best exercise you can do for yourself anyway. So just what is that why behind? And is it your why? And really just make a decision that you will be going for things because you are perfect the way you are, and you perfectly find wherever you are now. Even if you're finding yourself in challenges and go, well, you're right, you have no idea what you're talking about, Vladi, because I'm just not having fun. Most of us don't, because law of rhythm always brings us up and down. All of us experience it, but again, as I said, the social pressure, there's not people who are telling you, I just had a horrible day. Like today, I completely slept. I've done this wrong. I yelled at my kids and stuff. No, people just come on a social media and it's like, oh, everything's perfect and my mindset's amazing. And that's not really true. That's not how the world operates. So sometimes being honest and just saying to people, oh, you know what? I've just done this morning. And I'm thinking, what the heck? I know the stuff. It's actually okay, because it's about being authentic. But when I say authentic, I mean authentic. It's like, even if you have a bad day, it's fine to just say, my day was just horrible. Like this is not how usually, because we all have bad days. We all have great days. But the best thing is that who you surround yourself with, and just be happy. Make a decision that every day you're going to be 1% better and 1% happier. And just move forward. Because in 365 days, you're going to do the whole turnaround and be a completely happier and healthier and wealthier person. Norman, I'll lend it to the
I think that was a perfect closing statement. Just want to add that with your 365 days, you do it all over again. As the Higgs told us in Amsterdam 2-3 years ago, I think it was, that we all have many loops open in our life, which means one loop equals one goal. And the moment you close one loop, another opens. Let's say you have the desire to eat something. This opens a loop until you found something to eat, you prepared it, you ate it, and then the loop is closed. You're not hungry anymore. This opens a new loop. Now I'm thirsty. Now you follow the loop until you drank. Now I need to go to the toilet. Now I need to sleep. So it's one loop after the other. And she said you will never ever be able to close all the loops during your lifetime. And if you know that you cannot close all the loops, why hurry? Why hurry? Because if you opened and closed 10 million loops, you don't get a medal at a Heaven's Gate. Versus you just opened and closed 1,000 loops during your lifetime. But you had more joy, more fun, you relaxed more, you took more time on the mountain where Vladi usually stands, and you take in the air, and you're excited rather than rushing down to the next mountaintop and down and to the next mountaintop and just rushing through life. Just go in your own speed, make it as joyful and fun as possible. And hopefully you already know your why, because all your actions are being driven by your why. And people will see what your why is through your actions. And if people don't see that, like with the celery example in the beginning, then think about it and say, how could people see my why? Because this connects people, what Vladi shared earlier. People with a similar why are usually drawn to each other, and then we make the world a better place. We change it from the inside out. With that being said, have a wonderful week, my dear friends, and the two of us wish you all the best. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we see and hear you again next week. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.